Ah, the dungeon. A massive labyrinth filled with perils and monsters. Adventurers journey to the depths for the promise of treasure at the risk of their lives. The heroes of this tale, however, seek to rescue a lost companion, but their unique personal knowledge and unorthodox methods of survival lead them to new discoveries, making the known more tangible while opening new mysteries. Also, they eat the dungeon monster. Or rather, they feast on the monster in exquisite meals worthy of a themed house party. Ah, delicious in dungeon. Now, you might look at this cast, the premise, and the dragon on the cover and go, did Ryoko-kun adapt her Dungeons & Dragons campaign into a manga? Like how Legends of Vex Machina is a adaptation of Critical Role. And to that I say, I have no proof. It does borrow from fantasy TTRPGs and JRPG video games, however, there's differences. Namely, no direct references to gameplay mechanics. The magic system is loose, the classes aren't named, and there's no literal in-universe stat screen, like 8 out of 10 isekais. My homies hate numbers. So anyway, we're attaching numbers to these characters. Now, I'm not the first to apply TTRPG mechanics to fictional characters, not even to these characters. But the difference here is that I'm not using Dungeons & Dragons to make these guys. Nor Pathfinder, nor Daggerheart, nor Drawsteel, nor Dungeon Crawl Classic. I'm using DC20. DC20 is another TTRPG, currently in beta, created by the YouTuber Dungeon Coach, hence the name of the game. The game promises a faster, more engaging combat with more meaningful choices and varied and vibrant character customization. If I were to make more character builds in DC20, you could think of this video as an introduction on how to make characters in the future. Today, we're making Laios' party from Delicious in Dungeon as level 1 characters. Also, we're using 0.9.5 rules, which is the current version of the game. If you need more information on the rules, there are YouTube videos you can watch, or you could purchase DC20 in the link below. Start by assigning each party member a class and an ancestry, which is this game's version of race or species. Every fully sentient bipedal species in Delicious in Dungeon is a human or a demi-human. Laios is part of the human race called Tallman, because he is the tallest, second tallest race. But we will use the human ancestries for him since there's nothing else special about him. Senshi is a dwarf, Chilchuk is a half-foot, which is this world's legally distinct version of a hobbit, and Marcel is an elf. Okay, half-elf, but that's not really relevant. For classes, Laios has been trained in sword fighting, so fighter? Well, DC20 renamed its fighter equivalent to champion, making it better than any soldier. Is Laios a champion? It'll do for now. Chilchuk's job is to navigate the dungeon and disable traps, but other than that, he stays out of trouble. Sounds like a rogue to me. And Marcel studies magic at a school and uses magic rings to cast spells, so we're making her a wizard. Then there's Senshi, a dungeon explorer surviving on monster flesh and food he grows on golems. So we're looking at a ranger? Well, D&D's ranger is part martial class and part spellcaster, and Senshi is not touching magic with a 10-foot pole, let alone learning a single spell. Thankfully, the ranger is not in DC20. Instead, we have the hunter, a full martial class with all the wilderness survivalness we need. Next, we'll do attributes. In DC20, there are only 4 stats that measure your character's basic abilities. Might is for strong guy stuff and HP. Agility is for quick guy stuff and initiative bonus. Intelligence is for smart guy stuff and more skill points. And charisma is for riz. Well, it's for persuading others and also resisting other people's influence, as well as grit points, which is a resource used to reduce the damage you take or give yourself advantage on a save. You're essentially gritting through your teeth. For you D&D guys, might is both constitution and strength, agility is dexterity, while wisdom is sort of split between charisma and intelligence. Additionally, there are no ability scores, we just use modifiers. For picking stats, we can roll or use the point buy system, Or we can use standard array, which is 3, 1, 0, and -2, with 2 points that we can add to these stats, but the maximum is 3. For Chilchuck, his best stat will be agility, because that's what he needs to be the best at his job. Second would be intelligence. He has selective smarts, years of experience, but doesn't claim to know everything. Third would be charisma. He at least manages to read people, which helps for negotiations. And then his dump stat will be might. He is not strong at all. We can then bump up his charisma and intelligence by 1. Senshi will be the same, but we'll swap might and agility. He's got selective knowledge, a good heart, but is very physically slow, yet sturdy. Marcel is going with -2 might, like Chilchuck, because she's squishy, but to compensate, we'll make her agility 3, because she's dexterous and nimble enough when it counts. 0 charisma, because she's not leading the group and is hesitant to danger, and 3 intelligence, because all she's got is her smarts. That leaves us with Laios. Being a human, he gets the attribute increase trait, which we can use to bump up his -2 stat, but if you watch the show, you'd know his weakness is social communication. The in-show explanation is that he found more comfort in animals than other people, which led to him being unskilled in socializing, and his special interest in monsters further drove people away. Now, if you happen to be on the spectrum and haven't watched the show, this man might be your favorite character. So we have to go with a -2 in charisma. His physical stats are average, but we'll make his might 3 so that we can get more HP up to make up for the lack of grit points. His agility and intelligence will both be 2. You may think he's not that dexterous or smart, but those are the stats we were given. So filling out the character sheet for a bit, their attack, spell checks, and save DCs are all going to be the same. This is based on their prime attribute, which will be 3, plus their combat mastery, which will be 1. If you wanted Chilchuck or Senshi to have max intelligence, it would not affect their ability to use weapons. Likewise, if we lowered Marcel's intelligence, she could use agility for casting spells. This is one of those big selling points of DC20. Next is hit points, or health points, or HP. At level 1, all our martial classes are getting 9, while the wizard gets 8. We then add our might, meaning Laios is getting 12 HP, Chilchuck gets 7, Marcel gets 6, and Senshi will be getting an extra point thanks to his ancestry trait Tough, for 13. Then there are defenses. Instead of 1 armor class, both defenses will equal 8 plus the combat mastery plus 2 relevant attributes plus armor bonuses. Precision defense is for single target attacks and attacks that can be dodged. Agility is used to dodge, but intelligence is used to predict attacks in order to deflect it. Area defense is for multi-target attacks and attacks that can't be dodged, like a gripping attack. Might indicates a strong body that can tank hits, while charisma is used for persevering through the pain. So Senji is going to have our lowest PD at 9, followed by Laios at 13 PD. Chilchuck will have 14 PD, while Marcel would have a surprising 15 PD. For area defense, now Senshi is on top with 13, followed by Laios at 10, Chilchuck at 8, and Marcel at 7. I also mentioned grit points a while back. They get 2 plus their charisma. So here's how much they all have, with Laios having none. As for the initiative bonus, it's agility plus combat mastery, which is 1. This could mean that Senshi is most likely to go last, but initiative works differently in DC20. You'll need to find that out yourself. Next, we'll cover ancestry traits. In DC20, each ancestry comes with multiple traits that you can pick from to make your character. The human's default traits are attribute increase, skill expertise, human resolve, and undying. I already mentioned attribute increase before, and we'll discuss skills later on, while the latter two I'm just displaying on the screen because we don't have time to explain them. Basically, humans have slightly more stats and are good at not dying. Stuff that anyone wants, but it's not that creative. So these traits have a weighted cost to them. You get 5 ancestry points that you can spend on ancestry traits. From the human's expanded traits list, I'm picking human determination, which can give him advantage on his next attack or spell check when his health drops to under half. We use the term bloodied as shorthand for low health. It has the cost of 1, and so does human resolve, so we'll just swap them out. Undying, however, is a minor trait that only humans can have, denoted by the 0 cost. And you can only have one minor trait. Next we'll look at Senshi. Dwarfs get tough for more HP, physically sturdy for advantage against 3 conditions, and toxic fortitude for poison resistance half and advantage on saves against being poisoned. However, there's nothing saying that Senshi is resistant to poison, so we'll swap that out for natural combatant and trade expertise. He also gets Iron Stomach, which gives him advantage to avoid effects that come from consuming foods or liquid, which will let him experiment with monster food, but he won't be willingly eating bad food. Marcel is both human and elf, which is allowed. These standard rules require you to pick 2 ancestries. If not now, then later on when you get extra ancestry points at level 4. Elves get Elven Will, which gives them advantage against being charmed or put to sleep, Nimble, which lets them take the full dodge as part of the dodge action, and Agile Explorer, so they are not affected by difficult terrain. But she's not the adventurous fighting type, so I'm swapping Agile Explorer for Trade Expertise, which is a human trait that elves don't have, and Quick Reaction, which will raise her precision defense up to 16 now, so long as she doesn't wear armor. She also gets Discerning Sight, which gives her advantage to discern through visual illusions. Then there's Chilchuck. As a half-foot, he is close to the halfling ancestries, and they are characterized in DC20 as utilizing their smallness, being very brave, and being good with animals. Chilchuck has one of those 3 properties. So he is small, which is a negative trait, which will effectively give him 6 trait points. We'll give him Elusive, which allows him to take the full disengage as part of the disengage action. Then Halfling Endurance will give him advantage against Exhaustion, which, yeah, we're playing with exhaustion rules here. And Deft Footwork lets him move through enemy spaces that are larger than him without needing to make a check. Then we'll swap out Halfling Bravery for another Trade Expertise and Burst of Bravery. Instead of always being able to avoid getting scared, he can choose to end the condition for free, so we can have him panic or not when necessary. He also gets the Beast Whisperer as a minor trait, which lets him talk to beasts without understanding them. It doesn't fit him, but I can see another half-foot making use of this skill. Time to go over class features. Laios, being a champion, means his first feature is Master at Arms, which gives him a sub-feature, Weapon Master. This lets him swap weapons at the start of his turn without using a minor action or provoking opportunity attacks. Unfortunately, Laios only has the one sword because he can't be lugging around multiple weapons. He also gets 2 maneuvers and 1 technique extra, which he can use once per combat with a reduced stamina cost. We'll go over maneuvers and techniques later. But I should mention that stamina points are a currency that martial classes spend to use maneuvers, techniques, and class features. At level 1, martial classes only get 1 stamina point that resets at the start of combat, and can be regained mid-combat once per turn when conditions are met, depending on the class. Champions regain it simply by using a maneuver. The second feature he gets is Fighting Spirit. This gives him 2 sub-features. The first is Combat Readiness, which at the start of his first turn in combat, he chooses between Brace or Advance. Brace gives him the benefits of the dodge action, meaning the first attack against him has disadvantage, while also getting advantage on the next save he makes, until combat ends. Advance gives him the benefits of the move action, so he can move up to his speed without spending action points, while getting advantage on the next physical check he makes until combat ends. He would use Brace more often than Advance, as he's supposed to be the tank of the group, but Advance would be good for charging, retreating, grappling, or sneaking. The second is Second Wind. Once per combat at the start of his turn while bloodied, he regains 2 HP and 1 SP. This pairs very well with Human Determination. Each class gets 3 features at level 1, and the last one is the Flavor feature, which doesn't help in combat but instead for role-playing purposes. Laios gets Know Your Enemy, which lets him learn information about physical capabilities of a creature using a DC10 knowledge or insight check. Insight uses charisma, so we'll need to see which knowledge trade we can give him so that he can better learn the monsters he fights. Next, Senshi, as a hunter, gets Hunter's Mark, which you may know from D&D. In this game, you spend 1 action point and 1 stamina point to focus and mark a creature. He needs to either see the creature or study its tracks for 1 minute. He would get advantage on awareness and survival checks to find this mark, and his first martial attack against the mark on his turn has advantage and ignores physical damage reduction. And when he scores a heavy or critical hit against the mark, he gains a D8 health die to add to his next immediate attack against the mark. So his first attack is more likely to hit, an even heavy hit, which will deal more damage, and if he attacks again, the D8 might make it hit harder. And of course, being able to track down a monster to hunt is vital for the team. Also, Senshi can regain his 1 stamina point when 1. He hits the target of his Hunter's Mark, 2. The target of his Hunter's Mark is reduced to 0 HP, 3. He succeeds on a check to recall information about a creature, and 4. He succeeds on a check to locate an unseen creature. Second is Favorite Terrain, which lets us pick 2 environments that he is adapting to gain special abilities. Seeing as he lives in a dungeon, Subterranean is obvious. This will give him a Dark Vision of 10 spaces, okay, and Tremor Senses of 3 spaces. So he can sense creatures on or in the ground within 3 spaces. Dwarfs naturally get this trait here, so we could have given him that trait and then increased it by 2 spaces, or we could just do that later on. The second terrain I'd pick is Desert, which gives him fire resistance half and resistance to exhaustion from hot temperatures. While I don't know anything about poison resistance, the dwarfs in Dungeon Meshi should have some resistance to heat thanks to all this smithing they do. Senshi, though, gets it from cooking on an open fire all this time. His flavor feature is Bestiary, which gives him knowledge from hunting creatures and records them into a book or a memory vault. He would have advantage on checks made to learn and recall information about these creatures. Admittedly, this could have been Laios' skill, it's so up his alley. Chilchuck is next, and as a rogue, he gets Debilitating Strikes. When he attacks with a weapon, he can spend 1 stamina point to force the target to make a physical save, either might or agility, their choice. If they fail to roll higher than a save DC of 14, he can inflict one of the following conditions that last until the start of his next turn. Deafen, they can't hear. Exposed, attacks against them have advantage. Hindered, their attacks have disadvantage. Or slowed. Moving 1 space requires 3 movement speed instead of 1. Chilchuck can't win most of his fights, so he needs to be crafty and weaken his opponents so that he can escape or let his team fight them better. I'd imagine a higher level rogue could spend 2 stamina points to inflict the blind condition. The other feature is Roguish Finesse. This gives him Cunning Action, which lets him move half his speed, which is 3 because we're rounding up, whenever he uses the following actions, before or after. Disengage gives any opportunity attacks disadvantage, but with the elusive trait, he can make it full disengage, which prevents all opportunity attacks. Feint lets him do a skill contest against his opponent, his trickery versus their insight. If he wins, his next attack has advantage and deals +1 damage. It's risky, but it does save action points, and now he can move 3 spaces as part of this action. And Hide lets him hide, and if he needs to move behind cover to do so, Cunning Action helps. This feature also gives him Skill Expertise, which increases the skill limit by 1 so that he can put 2 points into 1 skill. Multi-skilled also gives him an extra skill point. We will discuss skills later. Chilchuck regains his stamina points once per round when he 1. Hits a flanked or prone target, 2. Hits a target affected by at least 1 condition, 3. Hits a target that he's hidden from, or 4. Gains the benefits of his Cunning Action. The flavor feature is Cipher Speech, which lets him learn another mortal language and understand and speak encoded messages. In his case, I don't know what other language he'd know aside from Half-Foot, and we don't hear many other languages, at least among the human races. The coded messages, though, would be good to talk to other Dungeoneers who give warning signs or mark treasure holes. Marcille, as a wizard, gets Spell School Initiative, which lets her specialize in a spell school. These are the categories that spells are put into that mirror D&D's. School of Destruction is currently the best school because almost all spells that deal damage are in there. 0.10 will be changing that. So now we can learn one cantrip and one spell from that school as long as it's available in the arcane spell list. Also, with Signature School, she can cast one of these spells with a reduced mana point cost of 1 once per long rest. We can't spend more mana than your combat mastery on a single spell. So this does not let you spend 2 mana points at level 1 on spell enhancements. We'll go over spells later. Arcane Sigil is her next feature, and it lets her spend 1 action point and 1 mana point to create a 1 space diameter sigil on the ground that can give any creature advantage on spells that match the spell school or spell tag assigned to that sigil upon creation. It doesn't have to be a School of Destruction spell. This works great thematically, as she is shown to draw circles on the ground to cast more powerful spells. So while there would have been limitations to making every spell she casts require a sigil, this gives her an upside by doing so. The downside is that she has to stay put to further benefit from this, or spend an action point to move it. The last feature is Ritual Caster, which gives Marcel 1 arcane spell with the Ritual spell tag at every level that she gets a Wizard class feature. So that's level 1, 2, 5, and 8, she would get an extra spell. The bad news is that there's only 1 ritual spell in the entire game. The good news is that 1 spell is Find Familiar. And what do you know? One of the spells she knows lets her create familiars. There are some differences between DC20's Find Familiar and these guys, but the big similarities is that she can change its shape and give it different traits, and can remote control it like a VR game.
I'm going all out! Everyone, prepare for battle!
What the hell is she doing now?
Her best, or something close.
Now, if you know D&D, you should know what skills are used for in role-playing games. But the difference here is that you don't add a proficiency bonus that grows with your level. Instead, you need to put more and more skill points to get better at these skills as you level up. We also mentioned earlier that intelligence gives you more skill points. So all these guys get 5 plus their 2 intelligence for 7 skill points, while Marcel is getting 8. However, Laios also has the Skill Expertise Ancestry trait, and Chilchuk gets the Skill Expertise class feature, meaning Senshi has the lowest amount of skill points. We'll give him Athletics, because he's strong, Stealth, so that at least he can't get a penalty from stealth rolls, Animal, which is short for Animal Handling, which is used for corralling, training, calming, and gauging the intentions of beasts, Insight, so that he can read people's emotions and have gut feelings, Medicine, since he knows what nutritional foods will ail you, and Survival for foraging, hunting, and navigating the dungeon. For Laios, we can put 1 point to get Mastery in Awareness, Athletics, Intimidation, Stealth, Investigation, and Survival. This will add 2 to those rolls that use these skills. And while it would be smart to pick one of these skills to get expertise in, Laios would pick Animal. This uses his Charisma, so we'll start at -2, and then add 4, and get +2. As I mentioned before, Laios is an animal guy, not a people's guy, so he's going to try and get along with animals, or at least read their emotions to better predict their attacks. Otherwise, he has his intimidating dog bark to scare them. He's much better at that.
He's good!
Laios really is
A dog!
You may think you're the hunter, but you're actually the one being hunted!
Chilchuk can add 2 points into any skill. We will stack Awareness, seeing as one trait that half-foots do have is their big eyes and ears, the better to see and hear you with, my dear. And we'll double in Stealth. He's going to be the best at hide and seek. And double in Investigation, so he can find traps and hidden switches. We'll put the remaining points into Acrobatics, so we can avoid grapples, and Survival as well. I could have put a point into Trickery, seeing as rogues should be good at pickpocketing, but Chilchuk has sworn off thievery. And Marcel can get Investigations, Medicine, might as well get Awareness too, Stealth, Insight? That's only 5. She gets 8? Well, this is where I can introduce trades. Trades are more niche skills that will rarely come up in campaigns, but when they do, you're gonna look like a genius. You get 3 trait points at the start and give +2 to whatever attribute is associated with that trait. If you have extra skill points, you can convert 1 into 2 extra trait points. So we will convert 3 skill points into 6 traits for 9 in total. I know this is not optimal, but neither is this team. Here's a list of all the traits I'll give Marcel. Arcane, History, Nature, Occultism, Religion, Alchemy, Herbalism, Weaving, because she does it so much to her hair, I'm counting it as weaving, and Sculpting. I have no evidence of her taking a pottery class, but those familiars look like they were made out of clay. Also, we've given her, Senshi, and Chilchuck trait expertise, so we can put another point into one of these trades. It would make sense for the wizard to know arcane magic the most, but I picked occultism. If you know, you know. Chilchuck is getting trade expertise in tinkering, as that's what he uses to disarm traps. Lockpicking is also something we'll give him. He can't forget a trade like that. As well as history. He is old and lived on the mainland, so he should be intimate with all the happenings up there. And some knowledge of the ancient world has helped him solve riddles. Senshi is unsurprisingly getting trade expertise in cooking, cause that's the thing he does. Cooking meals in the dungeon. We'll also give him nature because of his interest in the circle of life. And herbalism, cause it's sorta like cooking, and I didn't want to give him brewing, cause I don't know if he's an alcohol maker. But he has used alcohol when cooking. Finally, Laios needs some form of knowledge trade in order to use his Know Your Enemy feature for the Analyze Creature action. The creature's type determines what knowledge trade check you roll to determine if you know anything about the creature. Beasts, elementals, and plants fall under nature. Dragons, giants, and humanoids fall under history. Constructs, monstrosities, and oozes fall under arcane, etc. So which of these do we pick? None of them! We're gonna make a custom trait just called Monsters. This will be knowledge on beasts, plants, dragons, monstrosities, and oozes. And nothing else that the other knowledges are good for, like regular plants and animals, the climate, magic, and importantly, humanoids. Please run this through your GM if you're allowed to do this. I'm not sure this is legal, but man, I love it when the mechanics of the game can tell a story. Additionally, I want to make this a trait expertise. And we can! For one time only, you can give yourself expertise in a skill or trade by spending an extra point. So we can put all 3 points into this one custom trade to exemplify his hyperfixation. Now let's look at maneuvers. If you're from D&D and thought, martial classes are so boring and underpowered compared to spellcasters, the only martial class worth playing is the Battle Master Fighter. Well, you're in luck. In DC20, everyone's a Battle Master Fighter. You get maneuvers. You get maneuvers. Every martial class gets 7 maneuvers at level 1. 3 of those maneuvers are the attack maneuvers. These are so universally good, they come as a package deal when you become a martial class. Power for more damage, extend for more range, and sweep to make your melee attacks hit multiple targets. You then get to pick 4 more maneuvers to learn. I'll start with Senshi. I'm giving him the save maneuver, Bleed. When attacking a creature, you can force it to make a physical save to avoid the bleeding condition. This condition can cause damage over time, but it can also trigger his Axe's style bonus. Each weapon can deal +1 damage if a certain condition is met. Then there's the save maneuver Impaired, which inflicts the impaired condition. This might be helpful for weakening a creature's ability to hide or grapple. Speaking of which, Restrain is a grapple maneuver, which will give him an additional bonus when grappling. If you grapple a foe, they can't move, but if you restrain a foe, they are also exposed and hindered. And breaking out of the restrain condition will still leave them grappled. Raise Shield is a defensive maneuver, where he can increase the area defense of himself or nearby allies by 5 as a reaction to getting attacked. His area defense is already the highest, but this will let him give it to others. He just needs a shield equipped. Now you might think that Chilchuck's debilitating strike is similar to the save skills I gave Senshi, and you'd be correct. But the condition that Chilchuck applies lasts longer, until the start of his turn, rather than affecting the one instance where the effect would occur. Additionally, Chilchuck has to spend stamina to use this, while Senshi can use action points, or stamina points. So the maneuvers I'll give Chilchuck are Hamstring, which causes slow 1 rather than slow 2 that the Debilitating Strike does. Why? So that we can save SP, or we can use the Debilitating Strike to inflict a different condition. Slow is also the condition that triggers the bow's style bonus. I'll also give him Sidestep, which is a reaction that can make a foe's attack have disadvantage, while also letting you move 1 space, so long as you stay in range of the foe's attacks. The next 2, I'll give him Bleed and Impair as well. Laios, being a champion, is supposed to be the best martial user, so he gets 2 more maneuvers than the others, plus a Technique, which is a stronger maneuver that requires stamina points. I'm going to pick Forbearance as his technique. This lets him intercept an attack meant for his allies, becoming the new target. It is a very Laios thing to do. After that, I'll give him these save maneuvers. Exposed, which will trigger his sword style bonus, Trip to knock enemies prone, and Knockback to push enemies back. We'll also give him the grapple maneuver Take Down, which will also make his target prone. And then Parry, which is like Sentry's Raised Shield, but for precision damage instead, and it doesn't require a shield. Finally, we got Taunt, which has him do a skill contest against creatures, using his Intimidate, Influence, or Attack checks versus the foe's Charisma save. If it fails, it becomes taunted and will have disadvantage against creatures other than Laios. Laios becomes the optimal target to attack, effectively drawing aggro. At this point, I should probably mention that 0.10 is making big changes to maneuvers, techniques, and weapon styles, so prepare for all of this to be outdated. Spells will be changing in 0.10, but for now, we will be following the rules. Spellcasters get 3 spells and 2 cantrips at level 1, but Marcel, as a wizard, gets an extra spell and cantrip. But she can't have any spell, only those of the arcane spell list can be learned. The obvious choice is Firebolt. It's a projectile fire spell that also inflicts the burning condition. The spell also deals 1 extra damage to foes that are already burning. The shield spell works like the Parry and Raised Shield maneuver. Having Dancing Flames and Light do similar things is fine, since one of them allows her to create the floating light sources you see in the show, and the other one can be used as a flashbang. Burning Flames is her area of effect spell, and then there's not many other spells that are one-to-one with these spells we see in the show. Like, there isn't a water walking spell. So I'll just give her Magic Missile and Fog Cloud. Oh, but she is going to get a healing spell too, right? Well, there isn't any healing spells on the arcane spell list, by design, so she can't learn it. At least, not naturally. It's time for How to Get Your Wizard a Healing Spell! Method number 1. Maybe she's born with it. The Angel-born Ancestry has a trait, Celestial Magic, that lets you learn a spell from the Divine spell list, like Heal. It conveniently lets you cast this spell once per day with a reduced mana cost, in case you're playing a martial class with no mana. Of course, Marcel is not a literal angel, only figuratively, so we're not using this. Method number 2, multi-classing. At level 2, you get a talent, which is an optional feature for your character. One talent is multi-class, that lets you pick any level 1 class feature, excluding flavor features. At later levels, you can get level 2 features, and so on. There's no more wasting 1 or 3 levels of your character build just to get the 1 class feature you wanted. Marcel could be a level 2 wizard with a feature that gives her a healing spell. There's the Bard's Remarkable Repertoire, which lets you learn 2 of any spell, while also giving her 2 more skill points. There's the Spellblade's Discipline, and optional sub-feature, the Acolyte, which is effectively a better healing spell. But I would pick the Clerk Order from the Clerk. And I would pick the optional sub-feature, Magic Domain, that gives her 1 more mana and 1 spell with the healing spell tag, and all other spells with the healing spell tag are added to your spell list for you to learn later. You could also pick up Ancestral Domain to give you 2 ancestry points that you can use to get the Angel-born Celestial Magic. All this to say, multi-classing is incredible in this game, but we can't use this because our goal was level 1 builds. Thanks for indulging me though. Method number 3, magic items. In DC20's second magazine, available on their site, it includes rules for making magic items. These items can be customized with powerful effects. These have some limits, but for now, we're gonna make Amberos a magic quarterstaff with spell casting and imbue it with 3 charges of heal. Amberos is a quarterstaff, and thus it has the weapon properties Versatile and Guard. She can get a +2 on attack checks when smacking fools, and she can deflect stuff with a +1 to her PD. She now has 17 PD. How is that possible? I guess we're moving on to equipment now. Each class has starting equipment and some restrictions on what equipment they can use without being penalized, but that only pertains to shields and armor. The champion is the only one of the 4 that gets heavy armor and heavy shield training, while every other class gets light armor and light shield training. However, we gave Senshi the natural combatant trait, which gives him heavy armor and heavy shield training. For Laios, we're making a custom armor that gives him +1 AD and physical damage reduction, which halves the damage of bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks, as long as it isn't a heavy hit or higher. The downside is that he now has disadvantage on agility skill checks, like acrobatics, trickery, and stealth. The heavy armor also has the benefit of giving his unarmed strikes the impact property, which increases the damage he deals on heavy hits by 1. Champions get 4 weapons and or shields as their starting equipment, but since the gang is broke and we're dealing with encumbrance mechanics, he will only be bringing the 1 weapon. That is his sword, which he names Kenshi. It's a long sword with the Versatile and Guard properties that Marcel's staff has. It might also have a monster snail living in it. Would that make it a magic item too? Yeah, Kenshi's gonna give the Sentinel magic property, giving Laios advantage on awareness checks, he can't be surprised, and he's also wakened from his sleep when he's in combat. Honestly, all we needed was the surprised feature, but yeah, that's a pretty good sword. Senshi may be able to use heavy armor, but it still looks like he's wearing light armor. There's only 4 possible combinations of light armor. I picked defense, which is +1 in both. Now, remember when I said Senshi needed a shield to use one of his maneuvers? Well...
It's adamantine, isn't it? Why was it turned into a pan?
It started as a shield, but it was useless to me like that.
The adamantine walk is going to give him +2 PD and +2 AD while reducing his speed and inflicting disadvantage on his agility checks. This only happens when he has it equipped, but not on his back, oddly enough. He has his primary weapon, a battle axe, which will have the versatile and impact property. He also has a cooking knife that has the concealable and toss properties, but it might also be made of mithril, which makes me want to give it the unmitigated magic property, which will let it bypass resistances to slashing damage. Of course, he's not going to use these in a fight unless necessary. As for Chilchuck, we're giving him deflective armor for +2 PD so that he can compete with Marcel. But he didn't bring any weapons with him into the dungeon. He lost his bow during the team wipe. So if you don't feel like authentically playing as Chilchuck, give him a short bow early. It requires 2 hands, it can attack from 15 spaces away and 45 spaces away with disadvantage, and he also does get disadvantage on attacks if a hostile creature is next to him. It also has the silent property, so he won't get caught firing it. Alternatively, his thieves' tools can be used as an improv weapon with the concealable property. And lastly, Marcel, as a wizard, they do get training in light armor, but because she doesn't wear any armor, we gave her the quick reaction trait to bypass this. Wizards also only get 1 weapon, and they can't benefit from weapon styles, so everything we talked about Amberos earlier is all she gets. And with that, we are done! We have discussed every aspect of a character in DC20, and we went through all the members of the Touden party. Who is that? Is that a cat girl? Was she here the whole time? Oh no, a late addition? Okay, typical of a TTRPG session. I guess we can roll her character sheet up in a lightning round! It's Izutsumi is a Beastman, so we can use the Beastborn Ancestries, which doesn't have any default traits. Instead, it has 51 expanded traits. We'll give her natural weapons for her claws, which lets her make unarmed strikes that deal 1 slashing damage. She'll also get attack maneuvers with these claws, and will need retractable weapons to give her the Conceal property. She also gets climb speed, dark vision, and keen sense, giving her advantage on awareness checks when she uses her sense of smell, since all of this is cat stuff. She also is part human, so we'll give her a trait from there, like Attribute Decrease, which will lower a given attribute. She won't need it, she'd rather have another trait, like Prowler, which gives her advantage on stealth checks while in the darkness. Her best stat is going to be Agility, followed by Might. I split Charisma and Intelligence as her duff stats, because she is both uneducated, incurious, stubborn, and has no table manners. But she is not dumb as Stack of Bricks, or is Liars. Plus, she needs some high PD if we're going to make her a monk! Yes, a monk! As a monk, she gets Iron Palms, which is redundant since she already has natural weapon trait, but we needed to give her the retractable natural weapons. Patient Defense will buff her PD if she's going naked. Step of the Wind gives her +1 speed and jump distance while letting her run on walls and water, as long as she's naked. She also has to pick 2 monk stances. Monks in DC20 are stance fighters, so you can pick between how you punch people. She gets to swap between these 2 stances at the start of her turn, or mid-turn if she uses a stamina point, which she can regenerate by simply hitting a target or succeeding in an athletics or acrobatics check. They are named after animals, and unfortunately there isn't a cat stance. The closest thing is either Cobra's stance, which lets monsters come to her, they miss, and then she gets attacked back, while also dealing +1 damage to foes that do hit her, while Wolf stance, yes, I know, ironic, this lets her do hit and run techniques to let her move 1 space immediately after attacking, and giving advantage on opportunity attacks, while also having disadvantage on opportunity attacks made against her. Throw in some throwing knives, and the following maneuvers. Oh, and she's getting awareness, intimidation, acrobatics, and stealth as her proficient skills, and the trades are going to be zoomies, licking herself, and picking out mushrooms. Yeah, she literally has no applicable traits. Okay, now we're actually done. Here's a few quick notes for all the characters, so that you can make your own character sheets. I would have had character sheets made on a Patreon like other YouTubers, but I feel like waiting for the full release of DC20, or when I actually start a Patreon. If you want me to cover other characters, like Namari, Shuro, Kabaru, Fallon, especially Fallon, or if you want literally anyone else outside of Dungeon Meshi, let me know in the comments. No guarantees, but I want to see what these first-time viewers want. Then you can say you're welcome to any future viewers. So after 0.10 comes, I'm planning to make some shorts to advertise these videos and tease upcoming ones, where we will be making level 4 characters. So you better subscribe, and I'll see you next time.